All right, so pretty cool stuff. I've got the next shipment of inexpensive Signums on the way, or Signums on sale, I guess. Signums on sale. That's not a thing. We're not going to say that. They're on their way, and let's see. I need to order boxes. Order boxes. Yeah. So in the meantime, I've had the. I said how I had a bunch of stuff come in at the same time, and this is kind of neat. It's an inexpensive recorder voice thingy. And I think I've figured out a good way of handling it, because it'll blink if it's paused the recording. So if I keep it blinking, then I know I've got something that I need to take action on. Then I can pop it open and listen to the video, listen to the recording, and enter it into this thingy. Pretty thick. So I got I ordered the Hyperpixel, like I said, and it has awesomeness in it. So I ordered the Hyperpixel, and it was the first display that I was like, this I can use. Like, this is good. It has a fast refresh rate. It's very responsive, very crisp. It has good pixel density. It's only 800 by 600, which is kind of weird, because when I look at it, it looks better than 800 by 600. But I'm also using, well, mostly text, terminal programs and Emacs, so I'm adjusting the text size as is necessary. But I really haven't felt it. And if you use the Raspberry Pi, it has some defaults that you set for large screens or small screens. It's inverted, I guess. When you choose a small screen, you get smaller things. I thought you'd get bigger things on smaller screens, so it's easier to whatever. But if you use those settings, everything is very readable and usable. So that was one part of the problem, was having a proper display, a good display that can be built into a keyboard or a handheld device or something like that. The next problem was having the power loss, power issues, power fluctuations. And previously, pretty much everyone that I had read, especially with if you haven't gotten into this yet, it's really good, the retro gaming handheld community, they've spent a lot of time working out circuits and hardware and things that work together really well. So when they built this, when they had all this Game Boy stuff and different handheld devices that they put together off of kits using 3D printers, they always use the Power Boost 1000C from Adafruit, because it has charge while it's power while it's charging. It doesn't drop voltage, so it kind of resists the brownouts where there's a little bit of a voltage dip. And that's not a big deal on most devices, but on the Raspberry Pi, that means you just crashed your Raspberry Pi. It rebooted, and hopefully it wasn't writing to the SD card. Otherwise, you've got a corrupt SD card, like that kind of thing. Oh, that reminds me, I need to change the page file. Check out Raspberry Pi, page file, reduced usage. This is very meta. I'm actually making recordings of recordings that I'm recording. Did I get that? I think I got that. Yeah. Still kind of getting used to it. If I use this properly, I don't have to see it. I don't have to look at it. I can do it hands without attention. But the question is, am I doing it right? That's the question. How do you all listen to this? I don't know. I can barely listen to it. Raspberry Pi, with power, the page file, right. And when that power dips, then you've got problems. So I was using USB battery banks that can discharge while charging, and those are very good for it, but not good for those voltage dips. Pretty much everyone I found had some issue. Some of them were better than others, but most of them, at some point, whether when you plug in the charger or when you unplug the charger, at some point it's just going to lose power. It's going to drop. So, part of the other reason I didn't quite want to go with the Hyperpixel is because it uses some kind of high-speed custom DVI interface, so it absorbs all 20 pins on the Raspberry Pi. 20? 40 pins? I don't know. Yeah, it's 20 by 2, I think. So 40 pins. It uses all the pins, basically. Which means you don't get any peripheral hardware, any extra monitoring. It does break out an I2C interface. So if you want to do power management, where it like checks the voltages and gives you a percentage of battery and alerts you and does shutdowns when power gets low, if you do want to do that, then you need a separate device to be controlling that and communicate through I2C to the Raspberry Pi to send commands to it. So that's okay. But what I lose, or what I gain from the Hyperpixel, is far better than what I lose from having a few extra pins that I would use for power management. Anyways, let's see. What else? Oh, right. So I had been using the PowerBoost 1000C, and I would still have issues with it. I would get little brownouts. I'd still get brownouts with it on the Raspberry Pi 4 or 3 Plus, whatever, the non-4 version. And that version, it was okay. I was kind of expecting to use Raspberry Pi Zero W, and that would work until I started charging, and then it would start to act weird. And I realized the problem is that I was charging with a 2 amp charger, which I think is a big no-no. So hopefully I haven't damaged this thing. At least it's been working pretty well so far since I've been using a lower amp charging circuit for it. So the PowerBoost works just fine with the Hyperpixel, which is a lower power consumption display. With the Hyperpixel and with the Raspberry Pi Zero W. Now, I am probably going to test this with a Raspberry Pi, or the Raspberry 3? Yeah, Raspberry Pi 3, just to see how it looks, because this is approaching thickness that should not even be attempted. But this could get lower. This could get thinner. But where the battery goes is the big question. So I posted a video of it. It's I think I called it the THICC Noodle Pi or something. This was basically a Noodle Pi, but the Noodle Pi ran with a, what is it, 800 or 1000, one of the elongated LiPo batteries. And I don't know how much battery life it got out of it, but I mean, we'll see how long it lasts off a battery with a 2500 milliamp hour battery, because all the other ones use the HDMI interface and we're on the larger Raspberry Pi, so I'm not sure what the power consumption is going to be like. I'm pretty sure there are also things I can do to reduce the power consumption, just to extend the battery life, but the question comes back to, how much time do you really need to go between charging? Because for the most part, I have it off base for a few hours, and then I plug it back in. I guess a few hours is a minimal, at least. I plug it back in at the desk, or I plug it back in at home. This is very minimal testing. I shouldn't even be talking about this right now. I'm mainly just transporting it from charger to charger, and it has worked just fine in those transition periods. So the case obviously needs some work, but I wanted to be able... I had a 3D print case that was kind of a failed print, or rather, I designed it wrong. So I had to cut some edges out of it to make everything fit properly. I don't know what I did. I got confused with it. Designed lumps in there where I really didn't need any. But once it was all together, I just wanted to add space for that battery. So the one option is to build thicker, and the other option is to build taller. So if I build taller, I can maintain the same thickness all the way down. Ideally, this would, I'm not sure what you would call it, slide onto some kind of interface with my keyboard. It would just like slide on to the edge of my keyboard and plug in and work. I'm working on a stand for, actually it's kind of a generic keyboard phone stand that fits with the MX switches. I made it adjustable for thicker phones or thinner devices, or that gigantic thick Noodle Pi. So that's pretty cool. It's a lot closer. This was a big solution. This was a big finish to trying to figure this thing out. This is great. It survived the night charging. It did actually build up enough of a charge to become fully charged. So as far as I'm concerned, that battery is fully charged right now. 2500 milliamp hour battery is fully charged. So this might be my opportunity to keep an eye on it and see when it discharges, see how far it gets, and work from there. So other than that, it's been pretty good, because this is, I'm really happy to have solved the power problem, because now I can build this into pretty much whatever I want. I do have another hyperpixel on the way, not by choice, but I'll be able to use that and build into something else. Maybe I'll put together that Bluetooth battle cruiser, the big old 122 Unicomp. It's also worth noting, let's see, we did that. Bluetooth. I've been thinking about, there's a lot of interest in the FC660C, whatever, the Leopold keyboards, and people don't really want to mess with it, and I don't blame them for that. It's a nice piece of kit. I'm trying to think about how I would set up a USB module that snaps onto the back of the keyboard of the Leopold, so that you could have your normal keyboard and then just snap that onto the back, line up the USB, and then plug it in, and then you'd have Bluetooth functionality, and you can plug it in and recharge it and unplug it and slide the module to the side and plug it into the keyboard directly if you wanted to. I think that would be something that people would like, because that's kind of the feel of the people that are buying this this moderately expensive keyboard, pretty expensive keyboard. I would call it a very expensive keyboard, actually. $260, I think, for capacitive touch. But a lot of people are selling the smaller, the M versions, I think, which are just mechanical keys. Still a great chassis, though. It's a great design. So being able to build into that on the outside and just kind of have something that fits the aesthetic of the whole thing, I think that's very doable. You could do that with some round cells. Interesting. Okay.